What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more ska punk from one of my favorite bands in that genre, the Voodoo Glow Skulls. As you can hear, there are fireworks going off outside. It is July 4th, which is in part why I chose to react to this particular song. More on that in a moment, and I'm actually going to do something a little different than I normally do. But yes, this comes from their 2007 album, Southern California Street Music, which I didn't get at the time. As I mentioned before, Ferme, seen over here, and what is it, Baile de los Locos, I think? Yeah, those were the two albums I had back in the day, and Ferme was the one. Ferme was the one I listened to all the time, way more than Baile de los Locos. And Ferme, I think, was 94, and Baile de los Locos, I think, was like, I don't know, 98, something like that, 99 maybe. Either way, by the time 2007 came around, I wasn't really following them anymore, and I've only gotten this in recent years. Now, I think it's a great album, but I don't know it nearly as well. And in the last few years since I got the album, as well as getting Live in the Apocalypse, which is from more recent times, I have listened to some songs, but I'm still sort of ingraining them. I'm still, digesting them and, incorporating them into the corpus of material that I listen to from the band. And yeah, so this song called Morning Air Raid Sirens is one of my favorites from them, and even though it doesn't quite sound like Ferme, it certainly sounds very much reflective of their overall style, and it's maybe the most political / socio-cultural commentary, but even more narrowly political commentary than any of the songs I've heard. Now, even going back to Ferme, they have a number of songs which do address like social and cultural issues, but this one, again, is more overtly political than just about any song I've heard from them before. And this makes sense. Now, this is from 2007, almost 20 years ago, but the 2000s were characterized by the George W. Bush presidency, the imperialist machinations of people like Dick Cheney and Ronald Rumsfeld, and that whole political executive establishment. And rightly so, many punk bands, as well as, some pop artists and so on, but a lot of punk bands wrote songs during that period where they critiqued the wars with thin, flimsy justifications, the sort of return to this idea of like trickle-down economics and so on, and generally speaking, the hard shift right in national and international politics. Now, fast forward 20 years, and I think it's actually a lot worse in more recent times. And part of the reason I chose to react to this song today is because I think it's a song that the United States, and by extension the world, need to hear. Because I think a lot of the issues and critiques raised in this song are even more valid and fitting today with the presidency that we're living under, with the, again, shift to the far right among a lot of political parties and sectors of society, even though, and I think crucially, that does not reflect the majority attitude or opinion among a lot of populations nationally and internationally. So yes, the song speaks to the abuses of power, a lack of morality, the use of military warfare for political gain and or financial gain, as well as nationalistic rhetoric, the following of false prophets, and it critiques the situations which lead to these kind of things, including making a reference to like having to pick between the lesser of two evils. And while I do think that is valid, I think maybe one of the biggest differences between the atmosphere that led to the writing of a song like this in 2007 in 2026 is whatever one might say about the lesser of two evils, and that is fair. There are a lot of elections locally, regionally, nationally, even internationally, where it might be seen fairly as the lesser of two evils. I think there's a stark disparity between those disposed to fascist, authoritarian type policies and attitudes, and those who, for all their faults, are more in a mainstream, supportive of some form of democracy type of mode. So again, the critiques in the song I think are absolutely incisive and well written. I think they apply every bit as much 19 years later, if not more so, than when they were written. And also the song is rocking. It's got really energetic and kind of wicked punk sounds, as well as some, classic Voodoo Glow Skulls ska type sounds, especially in the back half. So I think it's a really great tune, and when I started listening to this album, again, just sort of occasionally, and I knew that I'd be doing songs from this in reaction, so I didn't want to over-listen to them, but of the songs I've come to know on this album, I've re-listened to this one the most. And in that regard, and I never do this, and it's not going to be something I'm going to start doing regularly, I do apologize for those who want me to read lyrics in advance or even after listening to a song. It's just not typically what I've done. But because this is a day celebrating democracy and at least what the U.S. is supposed to represent in its best possible interpretation, which is an interpretation hard to have when, again, the forces in federal government now and the powers that be, the frankly unqualified people who are in charge of agencies and military and political entities in the United States and in other places too, are the ones pulling the strings. So I think this song it needs to be heard, and the lyrics, because it's a fast, rocking, very energetic punk rock song, they might not be easy to hear on a first listen. So I'm actually going to read them in advance. Bear with me here. So the lyrics to this one say, abusing power for senseless tragedy, given the honor among thieves, family traditions and bleeding tyranny, veiled under the guise of the American dream. And then the chorus, I don't want to wake up tomorrow I don't want to wake up to morning air raid sirens, don't want to end up in World War III, don't want to blow up to morning air raid sirens, don't want to be another faceless casualty. Who's got the power? Where's the morality? Raised with scouts' honor, false prophet loyalty. They must love the smell of napalm in the morning, an eye for an eye only makes the world go blind. Old men declaring war, but it's the youth who fight, dying like a dog for no good reason, casting ballots for the lesser of two evils, the devil laughing, preparing his acceptance speech. I don't feel safe living in this scary place, let's raise a toast for the end of time. And then the chorus twice more, facing leaders, taking us down with them, clearing a path for selfish ambition, blind lead the blind through the senseless battlefield, holding the hands of the idiots that have no clue. Who's going to step up? Take us to that better place. What's it going to take for us to live as one? Feels like we're sitting pretty in the hull of someone's sinking ship. I don't feel safe living in this scary place. Only the marching dead will see the end of time. I mean, that's just... It's sharp, it's perceptive, it's well written, and again, I like a lot of bands that don't necessarily sing about political matters and, they address, personal stories, or, I listen to a lot of Strung Out, and big shout out to Pauly. They have a lot of songs about, psycho-cognitive, emotional attitudes and issues. So, again, I do listen to a lot of political punk rock, Subhumans, Dead Kennedys, Bad Religion, and so on. But a band doesn't have to necessarily do that for me to be very into them. But I love that a band that does write more about, social scenes and cultural matters and so on, and also songs that, have an element of comedy to them, like Voodoo Glow Skulls, can also write something like this. So, with no further ado, let's give it a listen. This is Voodoo Glow Skulls. The song is Morning Air Raid Sirens. Sorry, I didn't have it loaded up here. Morning Air Raid Sirens from their 2007 album, Southern California Street Music.
Given the honor among the thieves, family tradition and breeding tyranny, founded in the death of the American dream. Don't want to wake up to morning air raid sirens, don't want to end up in World War III. I don't feel safe, living in this scary place. Only the marching dead will see the end of time. Don't wanna wake up to morning air raid sirens. Don't wanna end up in World War III. Don't wanna blow up to morning air raid sirens. Don't wanna be another faceless casualty. Don't wanna wake up to morning air raid sirens. Don't wanna end up in World War III. Don't wanna blow up to morning air raid sirens. Don't wanna be another faceless casualty. Faceless leaders taking a stand with them, clearing out path for self-ambition. Rising the blood to desolate battlefield, holding in the hands of the idiots that have no clue. We're gonna step up to take us to that better place. What's it gonna take for us to live as one? Feels like we're sitting in the hole of someone sinking ship, but we sit quietly waiting for the day to come. I don't feel safe, living in this scary place. Only the marching dead will see the end of time. I don't feel safe, living in this scary place. Only the marching dead will see the end of time. I don't feel safe, living in this scary place. Only the marching dead will see the end of time. I don't feel safe, living in this scary place. Only the marching dead will see the end of time. I don't feel safe, living in this scary place. Only the marching dead will see the end of time. I don't feel safe, living in this scary place. Only the marching dead will see the end of time.
Awesome. It's fucking awesome. I mean, honestly, when I got to more recent, I say more recent, again, this is almost 20 years old, and even living with the apocalypse, or living in the apocalypse, or sorry, live in the apocalypse, there's no preposition there. Yeah, even that one's several years ago now, but both of them are more recent than the 90s albums I had from Voodoo Glow Skulls, so I didn't quite know what I would hear when I bought these albums, and ultimately, my understanding is, like, Frank, the lead singer, I think this was the last album he was on. Maybe there's one like after that, early 2010s, which I don't have. But yeah, he eventually left the group, and there were three brothers who were in the band. I believe Live in the Apocalypse, I don't think Frank is a part of, but I think he has actually since returned to the band, which I was very happy to read a couple years ago, or maybe like a year ago. So yeah, we'll see what more might come from them. But when I started listening to this album, again, just a little bit, just, a couple tracks here, a couple tracks there, I instantly was like, oh, so like, they didn't lose a step, they kept true to what made me really start liking them to begin with when I first heard Ferme. So, yeah, we're going to go through more tracks from this album, but as I said, it feels like on July 4th, which is a much celebrated holiday, the origin day of the United States, and again, taking the best possible view of the holiday, it is supposed to be a celebration of what the United States, in the best possible view of it, is supposed to represent. A shift away from monarchy and authoritarianism toward democracy, toward equality, and so on. Now, again, as a historian, I feel like it is entirely fair to question the degree to which that has ever been true, or when and how it's been true, and who or in what ways it has failed to live up to that promise, that ideology. And again, as someone who does study history, I would say there are a lot of answers to those questions, but there's nothing wrong with striving for an ideal, but to strive for it, you have to actually view the concepts therein genuinely and not use them for nothing more than rhetoric and political cover for actions and policies that are very destructive and authoritarian and prejudicial and ambition and or self-enriching based. So in that regard, as I said, I think this is a necessary song to hear today. And again, on this channel, I obviously don't get overly political or, have conversations like this in a lot of my reactions, though, again, if you see subhumans at Dead Kennedys and Bad Religion and propaganda behind me, you might not be surprised about the things I'm saying now, but nevertheless, I do think, as this song says, that humans and Americans and people from other places need to learn to treat each other better, need to learn to live as one, and as difficult as that may be, surely that's better than mourning Air Raid Sirens, being obliterated, following false prophets, and allowing older men to make decisions that send young people to their death for needless or greedy reasons, and so on. So, yes, again, I think this is a song that was needed today. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.